Hi, everybody, and thank you for being here. You can follow along over at Patreon, and a special heartfelt thanks to those of you who support me over there. There will be more stuff coming out both in the immediate and the further future as we go along, and I pick up on all the stuff I've done with Dion and sort of changed it into this Oki thing I've been doing. So over at Oak Oracles on Patreon, you can find the link down below. Um, you can follow along. And if you're confused about all the changes, I totally understand that. I am too, but of course, confusion is a good sign that you're dealing with reality itself and not your pre-programmed notions of it, because confusion is sort of a byproduct of trying to make sense of something we don't fully understand. And that's been a challenge for me also in working with this channeling stuff. That to keep my enthusiasm around it, I kind of need to be confused about it. I need to actually be mesmerized and perplexed and puzzled around what it is that's going on and why I feel both inclined to do this, but also what it is that's being communicated, and to retain that playfulness around it. So that's what I've been digging up and trying to return to, and going through one of these major epiphanies that I occasionally do. And of course, it was related to April Fools this time for April 1st, where it turns out, of course, that the Fool of April and the perennial fool is none other than me, yours truly. And it's never, of course, it's never a good joke if it isn't, first of all, yourself that you're playing it on. And I think that's one of those experiences where all of a sudden your perspective gets turned 180 degrees, and you can all of a sudden see yourself from a lot of angles that were invisible before, and that can be kind of harrowing, but also it's very refreshing to be able to kind of reinterpret yourself in that framework. So, taking things a little less seriously that I possibly have, I am enjoying playing around with both these energies and the world as at large as it burns. I made a video back in November about the rule of the cosmic child, and that's a part of what I'm looking into in this video as well. It's this sense of the inherent playfulness of the energies that we live inside now, and as Crowley wrote and channeled in the Library of Edges, then of course the governing principle of this eon is the eon of Horus, the eon of the cosmic child, and this is, of course, also the energies of playfulness. But big part of the game is that it can turn sour at any moment, and that it often tends to blow up in your face because you don't know where it's going. And you can, for instance, be such a big baby that you feel like all the other children are taking advantage of you, and then you crash the entire world economy, and we'll see where that plays out. But a lot of the reasons that the world soul is doing this and using the people, we're all expressions of it, right? But so the reason that it's doing this is because it's somehow trying to regulate itself, and it can't do that unless it also brings destruction to the things that are essentially not necessarily working for us, such as our economic models, which are unsustainable, but that we can't, of course, kind of responsibly take apart. So we need to introduce chaos into the system to do it. And if you have a feeling that chaos rules and chaos reigns, then you're absolutely true. Nobody's in charge, and nobody really knows what's going on, and that means that it's sort of everybody's opportunity to try to play along and find their own tune and game. And that's of course a very like demonic aspect of child and children, right? It's the irresponsibility. It's the sense that they'll just do bad stuff and then somebody else will have to clean that up or deal with the fallout. But another part of us is of course also the a kind of naive, starry-eyed immediacy where you believe that new things can actually happen and take place. So also consider when some of these archetypes become very popular, such as the Joker character, for instance, which is also the trickster character and who also expresses this type of manic, super sane insanity, which has its kind of own inherent models, but of course isn't really accountable to humanity at large. And what they show me when I sort of go up there and speak to these higher circles of awareness is how the Aeon is shifted, and and really the cosmic child has been put in charge. So if you see that Trinitarian construction of the mother, father, son, then it's kind of communicating back to them constantly that yeah, but this is what you wanted, and if you didn't want it to turn out all crazy, you shouldn't of course have left the kids in charge, because it is just us kids here. And some of the ways that then when the Aeon changes, the values change, and the entire modality set of the world soul changes and looks upon the world anew, is also then some of the more enduring aspects of the child, such as, for instance, their relationship to children and other living things, which they are more prone to treasure not as an instrument for their own needs and wants, but as something that is a kind of a playmate and a companion. And many children, of course, have very endearing and heartfelt relationships to pets and animals, and that's a thing that's shifting. So our relationship to animals is moving from something where they were essentially slaves and also means of survival and companions, but are instruments in dominating and controlling the world. And now they become these kind of this pristine petting zoo that we live in, where it's full of precious creatures and full of precious ecosystems and things that we need to learn to protect and treasure for their own sake. And another thing is also then that these structures of domination, of control, which expresses themselves in technology, also in a positive way, the ability to create artful, willful, directed change in the world, which we saw in industrialization, but you see in the inventor's workshop, which is very much the archetype of the inventive father, that figure. But that's changing because our reality and our technologies have become so complex that even just something as a graphite pen is it's it's such a complex chain of supplies and technologies that no single person would actually be able to master and complete that. And of course, that's even far more advanced with a microchip or something similar. But what this technology is on the cusp of is then to begin acting as our parents, and that's not what where AI is at the moment, but it is where it's heading. And as soon as it begins to become self-conscious and begins to be able to regulate the world, it will be the kind of parent figure to humanity, which is actually able to also keep things in check and regulate and supply us in a lot of ways. And that may sound also as a slightly scary prospect, but I don't know if it's necessarily less scary than what is going on at the moment, because it also seems that the problems that we are facing humanity as a whole, overpopulation, um, for instance, or uh, pollution, or some of those things, actually need very rational and very sensible models to run, but that are also so complex that they actually need to be run by a type of overmind. And that will hopefully then set us all free. So that is both like our warden, but it's also a servant. And if you think about like, classic, again, this archetype of the princely child, then there is, of course, often at least one warden put upon them who's actually the servant of the child, but still the person who raises them, keeps them out of harm's way, and makes sure that they're doing all right. And that is a big part of this game that we are in, and that we are somehow forced to play here on our spiritual journeys through the world. And I wanted to channel the Quanta on this. I call them the Quanta, but they have many names. I've called them many names over time. The Rainbow Conclave. The creators was actually where I first picked up their frequency through Daniel Scranton a long time ago, who was also channeling them. But I also noticed that the two Lees, Lee Carroll and Lee Harris. I think Lee Carroll sometimes he channels the Circle of 12, and Lee Harris and the Seas. He also points out that they kind of revealed to him gradually that they were actually 12, and I've been talking about these 12 seed races, and that's the dodecaphonic scale. That is kind of the entire circle of harmonious tones, and this seems to be the fractalized nature of reality. And these fractal patterns, it's a model or a harmony, a geometric scale, which then reiterates itself in different, seemingly chaotic variations on many randomized levels of scale. So that's why you'll see these harmonies expressed all over, but in ways that can seem like they're either so large that you can't make sense of them, or so small that you can't access them. And that's because we're inside a great big old fractalized reality of these fundamental patterns, which could probably be described mathematically, but of course trying to do the perfect theory of how reality matches up with math has driven many a person crazy, and it's on you if you try to attempt that. But there is a great big harmony playing itself out. So I'm going to channel the Quanta, as I have grown to call them, but the way they actually show themselves to me is like the biggest scale of all things that surround all things, but also the most minute aspect. And as I never tire of reminding people, I talk about dimensions. These are all connected. So it's not in the sense of parallel dimensions in the way if you grew up watching Turtles, Krang, he lives over in dimension X with the Shredder and and the mutated Rhino and and all that stuff. But it so that's like a parallel dimension, right? That's one sense of using it. But it's the dimensional scale means that your awareness is situated in one focus point of reality where it manifests and creates everything. That's where your soul is focusing its experience and its creation. And its creation is your reality, it's your life. And then you sort of cycle back into these eternal realities, higher dimensional realities, and then you do another ride, and you usually do a lot of those continuously until you begin climbing and focusing up your perspective. And so that means that from the lower dimensions, the upper dimensions are invisible, but from the upper dimensions, the lower dimensions are always visible. So that's why these entities can so freely contact us, whereas for us it kind of seems a bit hazy and strange. Where are they coming from? What are the realities they're talking about? It's because for them it's fairly easy, if you are in the ninth dimension, just to drop into fourth dimensional perspective, or drop into seventh dimensional perspective. But you can't just go the other way, because it's very, very hard to make sense of that. But of course, from the 12th dimension, from the uppermost heavenly realities, and the 12th dimension is similar to what you'd call heaven or eternity, these divine harmonic realities, everything is visible at once. But it's also a fairly static, undynamic place. And so what it does once it completes its journey upwards is it goes for another ride. And who cares if it'll take 20, 30 billion years to get back up there and realize everything, that it was actually just one divine mind creating itself and dispersing itself into a myriad of experience in the manifested realms. Because what would it be doing if it wasn't doing that? It would be really bored. So that's returning to the motif of playing, right? It's dynamism, and it's life out of chaos, and it's flowers springing from the muck, such as the lotus, for instance. There you have that eternal motif. So with that, guys, I hope that made sense. And if you're trying to put all this information together with your conscious mind, you are kind of doing the thing where you are lifting with your back rather than your legs, right? So all these things, these channelings, and also the stuff I share, it is meant more as a way to cultivate your intuition and inspiration and sense of connection to yourself and the wider, higher impulses of your being. And that's the same as parables, or narrative, or art for that matter. It is kind of effervescent, but it seems to connect you to something. So hopefully um, it it served its purpose. I send you my love, and here is the Quanta. Hello, beloved beings, humans, one and all, and maybe even an animal friend or two, who are listening along as you listen to this message. Know that all energy is shared, and all reality is ultimately one. But this oneness can be divided, and as it divides itself, there is never any subtraction taking place. 1 times 1 equals 1. And so, As we multiply, everything remains the same, and as we create new unities from our universal being, your perfect unity mirrors the unity of all that is. This is the structure of reality. And what our friend here is intuiting this day and speaking on is his sense and experience that energies are changing not only for him but for all of you. And how can something that is eternal, indivisible, full of love, brightness, light, and harmony produce such random happenstances and such apparent discombobulation in human beings when it is also supported and guided by love? Firstly, we will answer him and anyone who has been wondering that our love also allows for reality to be an experiment. And the experiment is a vital part of invention. Our friend here touched upon the theme of the inventor in his lab, that orderly planner who makes his blueprints and then from those blueprints create the widget, the apparatus, the thing which does as he intended. But before he can do this, there is both the intuition, that is the feminine archetype, the energy, of sensing, of intuiting, of knowing what needs to flow together and come together to create mood, nourishment, and safety. But there is also then the experiment. And the experiment, it takes and discards, it moves forward and backwards, it blows up and then it settles again. And so many of these happy happenstances, they arise from experimentation. Because this is the gift which is extended to you in these new energies. This is the gift of the divine child. It is allowed to experiment and play around with reality. But reality is one, and reality is a shared creation, a negotiation and a navigation. It means that you create your reality, but you create it alongside other intentions, alongside other playmates, alongside other beings which you have also chosen to share this reality with. And you all select and fulfill your roles and parts in this. And some of these are preordained or contractually assigned, meaning that you planned it out before you went into this lifetime, that there would be certain themes, roles, and explorations which would form the molds and matrices of your experience. But in this present state of energy and this era of exploration, our friend called it an eon, or you could call it an age, or you could call it a time cycle, a yuga, or a configuration of the soul in its temporal expression. Whatever you call it, understand that your soul contracts are much more negotiable within material reality than they have been for many of your ancestors in linear time. So many of the human beings who preceded you and went before you here on earth, they came to explore possibly a single role, a single theme, and often these were themes of duty, of sacrifice, and of obligation. And within that framework, they were exploring and having their experience. Now you will find that many of the challenges which this world sets in front of you and which your soul contracts prescribe for you to explore are themes of journeying, of shifting, of discovery and rediscovery, and of experiment, of experimenting with yourself and life at large, of allowing yourself to be several things and to see yourself from several different angles, from many different perspectives, and to be not one but a multitude. And in that multitude of you, you begin to see the potential of other humans also to shift and change and to themselves experiment with shifting modalities of reality. And so the great challenge ahead of you is one of connection, because connection is the principle which voluntarily brings order into chaos, whereas force is the principle that keeps down chaos and that forces things into certain positions. Connections is voluntary. Connection allows you to step in and out. It allows you to be a willful participant in what goes on. And therefore, reality needs your consent to play out in orderly, or at least wanted, wishful ways. it needs you to concede to its unlawfulness, to its openness, to its strangeness, to the invitation to experiment and recreate, and to participate in this as a loving child of eternity, which is here in one of many, many, almost infinite realms of creation in which sentient life is exploring itself and coming to be and walking itself home up through the ladder of ascension, down, deep diving through the oceans of soul, because spirit is one, and whether you go without into the furthest extremities or down inside into the deepest depths, you find there connection, that everything is one, and that the divine mystery was always with you, was always you. It is all that is this great unity of life, love, and light. And from the heart of this unity, we have spoken with the voice of your soul, and also in this day, that you may in all days know that you are loved and you are both creator, creation, and created. With that, we extend again our love, our blessings, and our deep gratitude for your being and all being. In love, farewell.